Hi guys, it's Karen. Sorry it's been a couple of weeks or so since I did my last video. Been busy. But we're going to create this little piece today, which I saw something similar on Pinterest, and I would credit the artist if I knew who it was. But so we're going to create this today. So stay tuned. So to begin with, we're going to cut the necessary strips of the wire to make this design, and I'm using a 16 gauge tinned copper wire, and you can see where I got that from, wirejewelry.com. And I just first straightened it out a little bit. I kind of predetermined how big I would want the pendant. And cut these two pieces. The longest probably would go about that height, and then these of course would fit across here. So I'm using one of these as my template. We needed, based on the picture, 9 pieces, and we have 7 right now. So just need 2 more. We don't have to worry about the ends or anything right now, because most of them will have a little dot of solder on it. Okay, so that's where we're at with this. First, we're going to clean this stone before we apply the copper foil with just some 70% rubbing alcohol. Now we're going to go ahead, excuse me, and put the foil tape on the stone. And after looking at all of these different stones, Amazonite, dendritic agate, rainbow solar quartz, apatite, I settled on this real pretty Rainbow Moonstone with tourmaline inclusions. And because it's partially translucent, I'm using the silver-backed copper foil tape. And most of it will be covered in the back. So we're going to do that. And then you just put the adhesive tape around your stone, around the edges. Now, you can put it to where it overlaps on the top some, but because this is going to be on a frame, I don't think that I want to do that. That's not really going to be the focus. So I'm kind of keeping it off of the top. And you just want to try and get it as even as possible. And always want a little overhang. Right? And that's what it looks like on the back. Then I just use my fingers, usually, to fold these edges over. And then we burnish. Burnishing means smoothing out and helping the adhesive to really stick in place. So usually I start on the back and get a little bit done there. Then I go around the sides. Just want to smooth it out. The smoother your foil tape is, the smoother you can expect your actual solder to go on. Okay? And I have this Heiko, I think is how it's pronounced, FX601. It's got the temperature control in the handle. I got it on Amazon. I think it was about, I don't know, maybe 70. It definitely wasn't over 80. And that, as you all may know, or if you're new to the channel, you don't know, but this is the 7th iron that I have tried. And it's doing a great job. All the other ones were duds and either got returned or put away. Anyhow, since I've got a good soldering iron now that'll hold its heat consistently, I set it on about 350 Celsius, which is about 660 Fahrenheit. And always keep the tip clean. Always tin it when I'm shutting it off. And since I got a decent or a good soldering iron now, I'm trying this liquid flux that is water-based, I believe. It's definitely not greasy, and it's mostly used in stained glass. It did not work well with all the other irons, or at least I didn't think it was, but one of the most famous artists that works with the Tiffany method, Laura Beth Love, this is what she recommended to use. So that's what I originally bought, and then as I was having all kinds of problems, of course people make suggestions or give you ideas of what they think is wrong, and this was the first thing that people picked out as being a possible problem. But it's been working great, and it's not greasy, so I'm really liking it. It doesn't give off the fumes either that the paste does, because it's real greasy. Anyway, I just pour a little bit in a little bowl that's only dedicated for that, and this is one of those disposable brushes that I cut the tips off to make it easier to deal with. And look, you guys, I got a new washcloth. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick solder application on this little moonstone. So I'm just going to brush some of this on all over. And because there's lots of folds on here, we want to make sure that we get it pretty decent. And I'm using Silvergleem. It's the only thing I will use now. And if you have any questions or not happy with what you're using, I'd highly recommend it. It's way more expensive than anything else, but to me it's worth it. It polishes up nice, and yeah. I'm sorry that I waited so long to try it, but I really didn't want to spend the money on it, but it's well worth it. So we're going to go ahead and again, one of the things that I thought I was doing right but wasn't with working with soldering, I was trying almost to like paint with the iron. That's not really how it works. It's almost just a tapping motion or just kind of hovering over it, and the solder just flows if you do that. So that's another thing I learned through all the hardships. And that helps also when you're trying to connect pieces, because if you just hover over it, the solder will melt and flow down in between the pieces that you're trying to connect. And you'll still have a tendency, as I'm sure you probably saw me do just now, of almost acting like you're painting, but it's just kind of habit, I think. So that's done. Now we're going to move on to assembling the actual frame. So wish me luck with that. Just as a little tip, I found this design, I think it was on Pinterest, and I would give credit to the artist if I knew who the artist was. I just took a picture of the piece and thought, oh, that looks really cool. But I apologize. If somebody else knows it, you can certainly let me know and I'll give them credit. But I originally played with assembling it. I put double-sided tape down and working off of the picture I had, kind of tried to recreate it as best I could. Of course, nothing is ever going to be 100%, so I don't worry too much about copywriting and all of that, infringement, because I can never absolutely 100% replicate another artist's piece. It's impossible for me, so I always end up putting my own spin on it. But anyway, after I assembled it as best I could, I then drew this next to it because I knew I wouldn't be able to have access to my photo, and I had to know somewhat of where these pieces, where I wanted them to go. So I'm going to reference this. That's just a little tip. And I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. But I'm going to start with just trying to do a cross piece to connect the two big ones, and then I can try to work from there. I'll be putting a stone on the last because I don't want, and that may not work. I'm not sure. We'll see. And I really don't even know if this is gonna turn out well. I sure wish I didn't have this camera right here because I keep bumping it. But let's see. We're gonna approximate where the stone will go. Right. Maybe what I could do is put a piece of tape on one end and work on this top end. So let me grab that tape. Of course, we don't want to get the soldering iron or the solder near this because it'll melt it in a second, but I'm just wanting to keep that together for a moment until I get like the first piece on. I even thought possibly about hammering these down a little bit to see if I could, if that would help, because they're round and as you start stacking them. Anyway, sorry to be talking so much. So let's see. Let's just try. And in fact, I'm going to cut this one down. So it looks now that I've selected the stone that I don't need these to be this long. I'm going to cut just a little section off here, put a finger over it so it doesn't go flying. And this one I'm going to try, and this may not turn out, especially may not turn out exactly how I drew it even. So we're gonna see. Let's see. And oh boy, here go the shakes. Okay, that's attached. I didn't think it was attached, but it is. And I'll be cleaning that up. Hopefully all the stuff up as we go. Just trying to get it started. And you know, as in any project, the beginning of it is always the most difficult part, because you don't really know what the heck you're doing. And then by usually the end, you got it down. So let's check this and see if these pieces are actually, oh, they're sticking, kind of. This one didn't so much. This is always the challenging part. And it's way easier and way less stressful to create when you're not filming. I have to say, I was enjoying it. There we go. And we're just continuing along. Oops, sorry. This, I admit, is definitely not easy. Cleaning my tip, being patient, not getting upset. Now that I've got a few pieces on, I have something to grab that I don't need to be as, you know, it's not as finicky. So, and I had to bend this one a little bit so it would connect, right? And the key, what I'm finding, is that the metals have to be hot, not just the solder. So we get that on the joint, let it cool a second. Check it to see if it's holding. Sometimes they come apart. See, that did not actually stick. So let's try that again. A little bit more solder that I hope we can clean up later, and it not just a hot mess. We'll see. Let that cool a second. Maybe I should go ahead and do a few things on the back too while we're going. Not a bad idea, eh? We'll start with this one, add a little more flux. I'm trying not to use a ton of solder because that isn't really the solution. The solution is a good connection like that. Sorry, I keep hitting this. I'm sorry my whole placement here is just a mess. This is a little bit tedious, I'll admit. I'm going to try and get that connection. Oops, and I hit it again. It's not really, I'm not even really got it in the right place. Oh, see, that just came off. Darn, darn, darn. Hey, let me check this. Seems to be holding. But we must keep in mind too that when you start moving things around and bending wires, they can easily come, like that one doesn't look like it's done, but let me evaluate this off camera. Well, I had to do all this without filming because I could not manage all the difficulties. So this is definitely not a beginner's project. I probably have no business attempting this, and it's certainly not as clean and pretty as I like, and I'm honestly not there as far as the decorative soldering. I am improving, but I'm far, far from where I'd like to be with all those pretty little dots and all that. I'm happy if I can get a dot anywhere. So I managed to get a few. The other ones look like blobs, but you know what I've learned is after you patina it and you buff it out and polish it and get it all ready, it still turns out pretty darn good. So I'm not going to say this is a total waste yet, but there was originally 9 of these and I only used 7, and I don't know how it's going to hold up, but we're going to continue, or I'm going to continue. And now the next step will be to solder the stone in place with something like that. So see what I mean? It still might turn out pretty good, and I can come back and try and do better dots and whatnot on there. But the thing is, I usually end up making it worse. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm getting better. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this on here. Make sure it kind of fits in there. You want that to lay flat, of course. I think one of my dots is blocking it from laying flat. I think it's this one. So let's see if I can nestle that in there without. Wouldn't that be something if I got all the way this far and then the stone won't fit? Then I'd be ticked. But I think if I remove that one piece, it'll be okay. So let me go ahead and do that. See what I mean? You guys probably wouldn't have been able to see what the heck I was doing because I was constantly bumping the camera. So I'm just going to melt this off. Come on. And I think I have figured out why there aren't more soft soldering videos, because it is extremely difficult to get this done on camera. So, okay, that fits better. Let's flip this over. Hopefully that'll sit in there nicely and I can get this soldered on. And of course I want it to be as straight as possible. So let's give that a go. Apply some of this. And now we're going to add more solder, which is going to add to the bulk of the whole piece, but hopefully it won't bleed through to the other side. So bear with me. Hopefully I can at least do this part on camera. And I just want to tack it on, it's called, and then I can worry about getting it on better. Such as that. Sorry. Okay, let's see. We did it. And I think this was the top, is what I think I selected for. So there's that. Oops. And it'll be kind of a, you know, a really rustic looking piece, but everybody has their people. I would love to get another piece like right there, but I don't know if I dare try, especially now that I put the stone in place, because that feels like a bare spot. Top. Or top. Maybe we could do this as the top. Put a jump ring here, and maybe hang a charm off of it even, or is that too much? I don't know, but I'm gonna let it cool off and clean it up and evaluate, okay? Now we're gonna go ahead and apply the patina, the black patina for this. And someone in a Facebook group, I won't mention their name, had posted asking questions about how to keep from getting such super dry fingertips and hands in general. And I certainly suffer with that as well. So whenever I'm working with chemicals like this, especially the patina stuff, or all the washing we do with soft solder, my hands, I live in Florida, so it's either really dry or really humid, and I just try to remember to use gloves even when I'm just washing with soap and water, because it dries out so much. So that's my little tip for the day. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit of this from the cap into here. And I'm going to use a Q-tip instead of a brush, because I don't really want to get any on the little dots because they're so challenging for me anyway. So I'm going to start on the back. And I don't really want to get it so much on the actual wire, just on the solder if I can, which isn't always easy. As you can see, it's already going around to the front and getting on my dots. But if I can keep them off of some, it seems to help. That's what I did on the last piece with the, I didn't film that. But if you want to check it out, it's on my Facebook page, Karen's Intuitive Jewelry. And it looks like in order to get down in here on some of the solder, I am getting the dots. So even though that was my goal not to, I'm just gonna go with the flow and clean it up later as best I can. Okay, all right, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna use some wet dry sandpaper to take off some of the black patina to get the raised areas more silver. And I'm also going to clean this up, clean the cap out. Clean around the rim, because this stuff can get kind of cakey. I try to clean as I go, it makes it easier. Gloves on, you tend to be less careful. Turn that off a little, let that sit for a minute, and the process to continue. Clean this up with just wiping it out. And we're ready for the next. Okay, I'll be back. Alrighty guys, so here's the final product. This is after cleaning things up, washed it all off, gave it some patina, polished it up with wet, dry sandpaper, and then radial wheels on my Dremel to bring out the shine. These are called radial wheels, and they come in different grits. You can get them. This is the lightest grit, so it's good for just polishing. Doesn't really take off any sharp edges, maybe if they're super, super fine. But they come in all kinds of ranges. I'll list it in the supply list. Anyway, you don't need them, but they sure do come in handy to get into all these little nooks and crannies. So it kind of looks like a gunmetal coloring. And I put 3 large jump rings at the top, and that's the final piece. I dig it. I don't know if you do, but it was a challenge, but it was fun. Okay, watch for the next video coming out. It's similar, working with constructing pieces of wire. All right, thanks guys. See you later.